Hello everyone and welcome back to Send It's Weather channel. Today we're going to be looking at the latest from the models for the next couple of weeks as we normally would. We'll also be doing a mini July forecast because because we've actually got some pretty good knowledge on the start of the month as to what will occur. Will we see it dry, warm or cool? Well, we'll look at everything in detail at the latest. So at the moment it's quite warm. We've got a high pressure centred, as I'll show you here. So we've got high pressure centred just to our south and to our east, and that's dragging in the wind from a southerly or southwesterly direction. And we're actually bringing in some pretty decent air from the south. Oopsie daisies, I just clicked the wrong button. You can see we're bringing in some pretty warm air from the south and southwest. So we'll have a look at all the latest from the models to see what they are showing. Do you enjoy today's video? Consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I really do appreciate your continued support. Let's get on with things. So yeah, as I said before, high pressure is beginning to move to our east. So we have actually beginning to turn the wind on into Monday into more of a southerly wind, which is dragging up the 15 degrees firm into many parts of central Britain, as far north as central Britain. Before that does eventually begin to get cleared away through the early hours of Tuesday morning. Oopsie daisy. A bit all over the place today. But yeah, we're bringing up a southerly wind there, so it's actually pretty warm there. And you can see temperatures probably will get into possibly 30-degree mark, maybe even a little bit higher in the southeast. Going beyond that though, on Tuesday we do turn a little bit cooler and fresher with winds in from the west, as that hot air gets cleared away and we go into more of an Atlantic-driven flow. Winds go into more of a westerly direction. High pressure migrates just to our south and west, and we're going to more of a typical flow. But we're still remaining pretty dry at this point. It is still a very dry picture, and we are still looking quite dry until Saturday/Sunday, with where this GFS run, the latest one, brings in an area of low pressure, which begins to move in for next Saturday, the 5th of July. I'm going to see it more unsettled. That low pressure dives southwards. That could bring some quite heavy rain to particularly the south of the country, so the southwest, western Wales, for example, before that clears away. And we're going to more of a fresher northwesterly wind into the beginning of the second week of July. So definitely turning fresher with this run. Definitely. It's not ridiculously cool or anything like that. It's probably still a little bit above average, but it definitely is like a northwesterly tilt to the air, which is making it a little bit cooler, but still remaining pretty dry, besides that unsettled interlude at the very start of the second week. Going right to the very end of the run, of course, a long way off, but you can see low pressures just out to our west, high pressures to our south and east, and winds are in from off the Atlantic, so it's a pretty Atlantic-driven flow taking over. Comparing that to the GM, which I need to readjust the thing again. There you go. We've got, again, high pressure to our south and east, moving away to our east, winds in from a southerly direction. For Monday, dragging in that 15 degrees firm through the country, so going pretty warm there. You can see the 15 degrees firm with this one only getting into central southern Britain there, opposed to just getting up to central Britain with the GFS run, but still pretty warm for many. Temperatures probably getting into the 30s for the south. Going beyond that though, again, high pressure transfers further westwards, you can see here, high pressure to our east and west, but the high pressure to our west winds out, and we do bring in more of a westerly direction wind. Low pressure sat to our north begins to move in by the weekend, a little bit later with the GM, brings it in around Saturday/Sunday, more for the north as well, so have rain showers for the north, nothing ridiculous, nothing remotely unsettled, I did say, but a little bit wetter and cooler with winds in from the northwest. I'll say cooler, it's still probably around average to slightly above at times, but it's definitely a bit of a change compared to what we've seen as of late, and especially tomorrow. It's going to reach 30 degrees for many parts of the country. So definitely a change on the way, but it's still remaining quite dry. Besides the start of the second week of July is looking like a period where it might turn a little bit more unsettled once again. If we compare that finally to the ECM WF, then you can see with this run, and we'll go like this, that you can see high pressure to our south beginning to migrate eastwards. That builds in a southwesterly wind for the start of July. Before that clears away, and we're going to more of an Atlantic-driven flow. Again, nothing remotely unsettled until Saturday/Sunday. At the end of next week, where it does turn into more of a northwesterly wind direction. So cooler air begins to sink southwards, and you can see definitely a lot cooler with the ECM than the other runs. More of a sustained northwesterly wind, dragging in some slightly more cooler air, with more of a high pressure ridge in the Atlantic, which just allows that cooler airflow to take over. And as you can see, it just remains quite cool really until the very end of the run, where we do see high pressure just begins to build in from the west. So it definitely turns a bit more drier by the very end of the run. We'll just have to see how things develop. So it all comes down to this, and what's Send It forecasting for the July update. So we're going to start off by saying it's going to be a pretty average month. We've mixed in with hotter and cooler interludes throughout the month. Obviously, the start looks much more unsettled than we've seen recently, but still dry at times. Dry interludes at times. But it's not looking anything like ridiculously hot or cool. Put some on for you to look at while we're doing this. But yeah, nothing ridiculously hot or cool. It just kind of looks average temperatures for the first couple of weeks. We might see a trend towards above average temperatures towards the end of the month though. But with a rise in precipitation, so it might turn more thundery, especially towards the end of the month, is what we're forecasting. That's just a quick look at the trends for July, what we see at the moment. But of course, I'll make more of a definitive forecast for July at some point as well. But you can see, if we look for the first couple of days of July, we are actually quite well above average, really, with the upright temperatures. This is for London. Above that 15 degrees, temperatures probably getting into the 30-degree range for many, particularly in the south, but not exclusively. But as you go into that second week, around to above average temperatures are particularly favoured. More distinctly so towards the end of the second week. But of course, that's uncertain because it's a long way off. Precipitation, on the other hand, for the first couple of days, a bit more unsettled, a few more rain spikes, maybe even a bit of thunder, but after that, not really remotely unsettled. Maybe a few showers in the south and southwest, but not particularly too much. We go further northwards to Durham, for example. Again, there's a few unsettled spikes showing up, but nothing too ridiculous. There's a few, the GFS being an outlier there, but there's not too much going on in terms of precipitation. So it just kind of looks around average, really. Not much more to say about that than that, really. But yeah, we could see a high of 30 to 32 degrees this weekend before, well, to Monday, tomorrow, before things do tend to drop off. So we'll just have to see how things develop. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you found this video informative, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, everyone.